Welcome to the GameDev.tv Community Podcast. I'm your host KB, and I would like to introduce you to industry professionals and people who successfully made their path to the video game industry. I hope that you will enjoy the podcast and get useful tips that will bring you closer to achieving your dreams. Now, let's get right into the podcast. Yeah. So welcome to the GameDev.tv podcast, Josh. You tell the fans a little bit about who you are, and we'll get started from there.
Yeah, so my name's Josh Loveridge. I'm managing director of Stratton Studios, which is a multi-award winning game development studio based here in Wicklow, Ireland. We've published a number of games over the last recent year. We mainly focus on kind of single-player narrative experiences for the console market. So, you know, targeting consoles like PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, stuff like that. So that's what we do.
That's incredible. Yeah, so I think was it your brother or somebody reached out to me and was like, hey, he wants to come on the show. And I was like, this is different. Nobody usually reaches out and be like, hey, I want to come on. How'd you hear about GameDev.tv or the podcast?
So many years ago when I started game development, obviously, mostly I'm self-taught, so there was a lot of kind of research, and you know, in that starting phase you're just kind of sucking in all this information. And you know, obviously Ben Tristram, you know, was one of the people that kind of always was there, and I seen he was doing his thing at the time. So you know, it was I've just always known you guys and always watched the podcast and always kind of I just said, hey, you know, let's try and get on, why not? We're one of the I have a big ethos of community interaction and supporting the players, because I personally feel that within the game dev community it's too closed off. You know, not enough developers are speaking with the players, speaking with the community to see what everyone else is doing, and just to put some positivity out there, because it's all very doom and gloom, you know. And it's good to just get that positivity out there and just let people know, hey, this is possible. You know, if this is what you want to do, you can do it, you know. So that's really my thing, and I do it across, like, you know, we usually say within Stratton that if I don't do an interview or hop on a podcast at least maybe once every quarter, then I'm doing something wrong. Hyping up to our games release, you know, we're on maybe a couple of week doing, so it's it changes the time of the year, but you're the first of the year this year.
Yeah, look at that. See, I'm glad to have you on. But no, I agree with all that about the world could be doom and gloom. Like, even that, Jack, when you and I talked a little bit about how, like, people will, you know, just not be very supportive. And especially in the game industry, it's very hard to do, because it can be hard to, you know, program every day, work on art every day, start your own studio. It's a difficult thing. So yeah.
Sorry. Especially if you've never done it before, right? Like, I remember when I was trying to get into the games industry, there's a lot of, like, gatekeeping kind of with interview processes, where people, like, who are these awesome programmers are like, I don't really want you to be here. So they're not very in loving and supporting. So, like, I found that the places that I wanted to work were the places that were like, hey, I like you and I want you to succeed at this, whether or not it's here or at some other company. So I really also oh my god, I can't even think of words. I really feel what you're saying there when you say that, because it is hard, and it is like when you're first coming in, you are an outsider. So I love that there are other developers out there that have that mindset, and that you have a company that has that mindset. Like, that's so awesome.
Yeah, no, it's good.
What is your company's motto? I think it says, remember your roots, love what you do. Where did that come from? I love that.
So Stratton Studios is a strange story. I suppose it's the story of kind of one, I suppose, what people used to call, you know, crazy young lad in Ireland's aspirations that kind of came to a fruition. So essentially what happened was Stratton Studios, why was it we weren't always Stratton Studios? So if people look out there, you know, at our previous games, they might see Loveridge Designs. So essentially, when I first started everything, I launched a company called Loveridge Designs, and essentially we did everything. Like, you know, we were doing game dev, we were doing video production, we were doing website development, we were doing literally everything. And this is all the stuff that I love to do, you know, it's the stuff I focus on. And, you know, we when I started that, everyone told me, you cannot do this, you know, it's never going to work. This is the worst idea ever, you know, every doubt there ever was. And then it gaslit. It just literally went like it went like that, and it just blew up. And as year by year, week by week, you know, the company was growing, was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then about a year and a half ago, we realized, okay, we've got a problem here. You know, people are starting to message Loveridge Designs, asking about games, and, you know, there's a confusion with the brand. So we split the brand up. So Loveridge Design side of things split into Loveridge Digital, which is a full service media agency. We've actually 2 offices, one in Ireland, one in Australia. Central NSW. So that company's growing on the side as well. So that's a big thing also. And we work, you know, the majority in the film industry there, and with kind of corporate companies and doing their content creation. But then on the Stratton Studio side of things, that's split off, and that's just been growing ever since. You know, the team's growing, we're just getting bigger and bigger, and we're just, you know, we're just loving the ride, really. So I always say, you know, you have to remember your roots, you know, because obviously as you get more successful, as you get more kind of, you know, up in the industry, opportunities present themselves that go against maybe your code of ethics when you started. You know, you set out with an ethos. You know, I believe that what makes companies great has to stay. You can't lose that. You know, what's given us all the success so far has to stay within the company, and that's the attitude towards the games. You know, that's this undying love for our players, undying love to make cool stuff. You know, and without that, I feel that Stratton Studios will die, and it'll die, you know, into just another games company, because we're not just another games company. You know, we're doing things different, and we've always done it that way, and we're going to continue to do it that way. So that's where that comes from. So it's it's quite a funny one.
It's a great one. So let's start all the way at the beginning. So, like, when did you get into games and game dev?
So I was your typical, you know, 8+ hour a day hardcore gamer all my life. And, you know, coming out of, you know, once I hit kind of, you know, around 13, 14, I realized in life you have to earn money.
Yeah,
you know,
pretty young to realize that, to be fair.
Right, though, yeah.
Some don't even when they're 30.
Yeah, so I realized that, and it was like, okay, well, I've got 2 options. Essentially, I can either A, work a 9 to 5 and just, you know, plod along, do my thing, that's okay. Or potentially what I could do is I could work my ass off, work harder than anyone else will, and, you know, I haven't taken a day off since I started. So I essentially said, I'm going to commit to this, and I'm going to be successful. There's one thing I love, and that's games, and that's what I'm going to do. And then I just literally started. I started on every crazy tutorial on the internet. I done everything there was. I made the mistakes. I spent hours, you know, looking at you know, kind of lines of code, learning all these different elements. I started to research into the psychological aspect of it, you know, what actually makes a game good, synergy, flow, all these vital elements, you know, so important. And I just kind of immersed myself in it, and I slogged away at that for years. And I was publishing terrible games that were just like horrible. And every time I'd publish them, you know, people would give me all these, you know, you get the terrible reviews. People are like, oh, this is the worst game I've ever played, you know. Hope this company, like, this lad, just stop, like, you know. But I just kept at it. And then eventually what happened was I got a break. And the break was essentially I started a horror game called The One We Found. And I essentially, I hounded down ID at Xbox, and I was like, listen, guys, just give me a shot. That's all I want. I just want one shot. And I got that shot. And, you know, it's kind of just been uphill from there. But essentially, it's just been a battle of attrition, just, you know, learning your craft, making those mistakes. And, you know, kind of that's how really I kind of got into it all.
No, that's amazing.
That is an amazing journey. So from there, you started your own company. So what has been the biggest challenge for you starting your own actual game company?
Biggest challenge in the games industry for me and starting a company is there's one thing to make a great game, but there's another thing to make good money. You have to do both, and you have to do both well to be successful. And that's not my undying will because I want Lamborghinis. That is that I know that if I make more money, I can invest it in our games. I can make the experience better for the players, you know? So the biggest challenge has been finding ways within an industry that is not business focused. Because the games industry typically, unless you get to the really high levels, no one knows what they're doing when it comes to a business. So, you know, I came at it from a different aspect where I'm running other businesses that are in traditional, more corporate sense. So I knew the importance of positive cash flow. And that is the most important thing, is positive cash flow within your company, you know, getting that up and running. You know, we've never had challenges making games. That's the easy bit. And the hard bit is making sure that, you know, everyone that's at the company is paid well and paid good, and that they are not being like, you know, I'll stress myself rather than stress other people. That's the way I approach things, you know, so that's the biggest thing. And the thing about it is, you know, as you grow a company, you take on the responsibility of other people. That's the thing, you know, you're responsible for what they're doing. And if you mess up and you don't make, you know, your quarterly returns, you know, then they're affected. So, you know, we've never had that issue at Stratton. We're growing, and we're growing very well. So, you know, that's it. Positive cash flow, keeping that positive cash flow within the company. And in the beginning, that was hard because I made so many mistakes. I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't. Like, you know, I didn't have all the core elements of running the business, you know. But now we do. And, you know, that was the biggest hurdle. And I think that's where everyone fails. Because if you notice, you know, a lot of games companies get to a certain level and then they just drop. And the reason is because they don't have process. They don't have any of these core elements within their business. Because at the end of the day, you know, you have to make some money to live. You know, and if you're not doing that, well, then what are you doing it for? You know, so you've got to be successful in all aspects and take it seriously. You know what I mean? If you don't take your cash flow seriously as a studio, you know, you're being reckless. And I strongly believe that, and I preach that so much because it's the number one thing when I look at other studios, and maybe sometimes they ask me, okay, how are you doing this? And, you know, we're not growing, but you are. And then I say, well, just give me a look at your books and I'll tell you why. You know, that's really it. It's all down to keeping them positive cash flow. 100%.
Wow. Josh, you're very inspirational. How old are you?
I just turned 22.
That's insane, man.
Oh my God.
Right? He's speaking
Wow.
like a businessman's been in the works for like 20 years. But
Yeah, I thought Kevin was young.
Yeah, right? So when was that? Well, how old were you when you did that deal with Microsoft, or you went up to Microsoft?
I think I was 17, nearly 18.
Dang. So you've been just grinding out since 14, working hard, making this happen. How did you get to that point? Like, did you watch any like business stuff? Did you eventually?
No.
Did you even go to college? You just
A lot of
did
Shark
it.
Tank.
Oh, here's the funny bit. So I didn't complete the normal educational route. So I actually I essentially what you would call drop out of mainstream education and finish my education myself. That's the way we did it. Then essentially what I did was I went on to third level and did some games related kind of courses and stuff. And then essentially I skipped my degree and went straight on to my master's, and I studied service-orientated architectures. Now, while I was doing this, I kind of essentially was running the companies, and I didn't get to finish that. I will go back and finish it eventually, but you know, I seen an opportunity. You know, once I shook this deal, I was like, okay, you've got one shot. Let's, you know, we're going for it.
Wow.
Buckle in. Yeah, so that was how I did it. But essentially, the turning point for me, as I said, I was young. Like, I've worked since I was 12, and that's like, I used to work. So essentially, my first job was, I used to work in a dog. You know, so it was kind of very, very manual. You know, working with animals. You know, so I've always known what hard work is, and I've always wanted. And it's not like I was forced. It was more that I've always had this undying, burning will to be successful and to just do well, even in games, you know, being guild masters, you know, doing all this type of stuff, you know, making sure I was getting all the platinums in games, you know. I was always a completionist. And I was always the one that was pushing ahead and doing things that maybe, you know, other people would call a chore. I just love. And it's not like I find it work. I love it. You know, every day when I find it hard to sleep at night. I really do, because I'm excited for the next day. I'm excited for the new challenges that they're going to bring me. And, you know, when something happens and they're like, okay, we've got a problem, or, you know, our timeline's been cut in half, what are we going to do? I'm just like, okay, here we go. Let's do this.
That. Wow. Okay. That's not everybody has that. I don't hear most people like that. How did you develop that? Was that always in you since you were 12, younger, or did you slowly grow that because you were working at a young age?
I suppose over the years I've become more and more. I've always been like this, as in, okay, I'm going to be successful. You know, I know the one thing I need to do to, you know, make it is to work harder than anyone else. And I've always had that. I've always had that thing in me, that want, that desire. And it's a desire that never gets filled. I'm chasing an infinite dragon that I'm never going to reach. But I know that, and I'm okay with that, because I'm happy with the journey. And, you know, it's amazing the people you meet, you know, the everything. And the thing I like about being successful, you could call me successful. I don't call myself successful. I always, you know, I'm always very hard on myself. But what I like about it is that my doing well allows me to give to other people. That's the thing. Like, I like to know that everyone around me is going to be secure. Everyone around. I like to know that if anything ever happened, you know, one of my family members, I can get a fix. Of that is something that I really like, and I you know, it's important to me. You know, it's just this. It's hard to explain, but it's just a thing inside me that pushes me to do it, and it just never stops. It never stops.
So you said that you learned a lot of the stuff that you know how to do on your own through tutorials online and just figuring it out yourself. So what is some advice that you have for like the people who are just getting started like you did, to keep pushing forward and keep like getting through those hard bits of going through tutorials by yourself? Because it's hard to teach yourself how to do things.
I would say that the hardest bit obviously is getting started. It's always the hardest bit. It's always the hardest curve. But here's the thing. You've got to enjoy that. That's actually the funnest bit. That's what the people don't realize. The funnest bit is that making them gains day by day, you know, getting slowly a bit better, seeing that coming together. Like now when you know a lot of this stuff, it's kind of like you don't learn as much anymore. You know, there's not them easy achievements. You know, when you're at the bottom level, you know, you're getting them quick levels. You're leveling up like really quick, like 1 month in like watching tutorials and practicing, you probably made your first little game, like, and that is a very empowering thing, you know. So I think that that's one of the funnest stages, and I would say to people that if they don't like that and are getting down in it and stuff, they really need to think, okay, why am I doing this? Because if you're here, all about your why. If your why is correct, then you're going to push through it, and you're going to be able to do that, you know. It's all about your why and getting your why correct. A lot of people I seen coming into the industry are looking for that quick buck, as they think. They think, oh yeah, games, $9 billion industry, whatever. They're like, oh yeah, loads of money, and they chase it, chasing, you know. That won't work. It fails instantly. if you're doing it for that reasons, you know, go somewhere else. But if you really are doing it for your passion and this is because you want to do it, you will get through that. And just know that everyone has gone through that. It's not like, you know, we're like a level 50 mage just floating in and we all knew everything about the, you know, the game development process when we all started. Everyone started like that. And it's completely normal to feel defeated. Like, you know, the best thing I say to people when they say, oh, I'm feeling down, you know, I can't seem to figure this out. I always say to them, well, you know, do you want to know the good thing about that is that a high is coming, because you're going to figure it out soon. And oftentimes when you think it's just about time to give up, that's when you break through. And that's when you get over that plateau, and that's when you're on to the next level. So it, like, you know, it's just like playing a game. Like, for example, if someone started Mario and they fell down the first little pit, you wouldn't tell them to give up. Like, you know, you'd say, listen, you've plenty of lives, so, you know, hop back in there.
Wow, dude, I thought I was positive.
You don't have that in real life. Just disclaimer: you only have one. Down on pit.
I love that.
Disclaimer. I love that. But wow, dang, that's just I haven't met someone more positive like that in a long time. Like somebody just like completely just embodies like, get after it, do this, enjoy it. It's the journey. It's fun, and it's like, wow, bro, you were born to do this. So when it comes to your business and what you do is like part of the business, how did you get started? Were you like a programmer, artist, or were you doing more design?
So I started in 3D animation. That was my first kind of field. Once I started in 3D animation, I then kind of started to branch into, you know, started off in Blender, actually. Blender game engine. That was the first Blender game engine.
I love Blender.
Yeah. So I started off as 3D kind of arts, animating, stuff like that. Then I quickly realized that it wasn't, I'm very proficient at it, but it just, I kind of preferred the higher level kind of design aspect of it. But I knew to do that I couldn't just focus on design. You know, you can't just focus on one element. I had to know it all. So I essentially what I did was I broke each part down. So I started off with 3D animation modeling. I learned everything I needed to know about that. I needed to know every process. I learned it all book by book, done it all. And then I hopped on to 2D animation, learned everything about that. Then I hopped on to, it was after that, it was like ZBrush, sculpting, stuff like, hopped right into that, done that. After that, then I actually started into programming. Now, when I started learning C#, I actually started in traditional C# rather than actually just like Unity. Main reason being is that I knew that to actually embody and really learn it, I needed to know where it came from. I needed to know, you know, what were these actual kind of, what was everything, you know? So I did that that took a long time.
I bet.
And then I was studying service-orientated architectures at the time, so that kind of, you know, that kind of all lined up. But after I learned programming, then essentially I said, okay, I know art, I know programming. Okay, that's, you know, 2 out of 3. Now I need to know the hardest bit, which is game design. You know, what makes people want to play something? You know, what actually drives someone to that next level? You know, what are these elements? You know, because I believe that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. So, you know, if you look at games that are, you know, in the past, you know, especially when we didn't have all these, you know, massive budgets with regards to art or anything like that, they were the core games that synergized game design. Everything about it was in them, you know, games, and I studied them. I studied everything about them. I read all the white papers. I read every single article. I learned about all the different techniques, the psychological triggers. I learned the psychological side of things. You know, what drives people? What makes people think? What makes people do what they do? And that enabled me to kind of start really, you know, kind of forming my area within kind of game development. Now, currently, like the way I make games is I do it all. Like if someone's like, okay, you know, we're struggling in the art department, I'm like, all right, you know, let's hop in there. You know, I focus on a lot of that. The main thing I kind of like, for example, most of our titles that we do, I build about 80% of them myself. I'm very quick. I've gotten extremely quick. And you know, right now, you know, I can do the work of 6 or 7 different people within a team. So it's like I've got it down to an efficient process that allows us to push out these titles extremely quick. Like we've a 1-year dev cycle, and for a console game, you know, that's pretty quick. From concept to publication. So, you know, it's that's the way I've kind of you know, started, and that's how I evolved. But I'm, you know, constantly trying to learn new things, and, you know, the latest and greatest techniques.
Wow.
Okay. So I actually have a quick question. So since you kind of taught yourself game design, which I feel like is a lot harder to do than just like art or programming, because like with those, when you're doing tutorials, you can see what they're doing and then you can replicate it. But with design, it's not so much as see me do this, then you do it, because you have to like dig into yourself and come up with things on your own and start thinking about the deeper process of design. So what are some challenges that you had, and like how did you overcome them?
So the biggest challenge, I suppose, was, okay, with programming and art, there's a starting point, there's a finish point. You know, they're defined. But with design, that's not defined, that's taken away. And then I started to realize that's what I thought initially. But then I realized that actually wasn't true. That there is a start and end point to design. There is a set kind of narrative that people want. There's a set kind of framework that has worked historically and will work moving forward into the future. And then it became a challenge of, how do I innovate on that? And how do I break down those barriers? So I started, you know, from the basics of, okay, this has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's how I start everything. And when I'm starting any game design process, I say, okay, everything I think about or everything I implement, I say who, what, where, when, why. The 5 W, simple. You know, okay, why is this here? What does this actually, you know, mean for the world? Is this actually engaging? Or why would someone care about it? Because the way I look at it is, I look at every element as if a critic was standing over my back, you know, kind of saying, okay, well, that's out of place because of this, and that's out of place because of that. So that's how I've always approached it, and I've just slowly built up from there. But the hardest bit is always just setting the very first kind of stone in place. After that, you're just building on top of it, and it all comes together. Like, you know, for the first few titles that I built, it was more just, okay, let's just build a mechanic here and see where it takes us, and we'll come up with the design afterwards. Obviously, that doesn't work, but you know, it was a good starting point, and it allowed me to see that and make that mistake and to learn, okay, that's not working, so let's try something different. And then I started smaller, and then I said, okay, well, I want this title that I'm working on to focus only on flow. I only wanted to focus on flow, nothing else. I don't want to worry about any synergy, anything like that. I just want to focus on flow. And then I'd build a little game with that, and then I'd say, okay, that's that implemented. Now let's add in, say, synergy. Let's synergize it together with something else. And then after that, I'd say, okay, well, let's implement weenies into this game. So let's use, like, you know, weenies to implement to, you know, draw the player. I want to focus on them in this game. And then I just kept doing that over and over. And eventually it just kind of all came together. Like now we've a set process. Usually what we do, like, you know, when we're defining the game is, well, I'll sit down and we'll say, okay, I'll come up with the concept and I'll say, okay, this is the basics of what I want. Any ideas? And then, you know, we all kind of brainstorm together. And then after that, I just say, okay, well, let's make something and see what happens. And then, you know, we roll with it.
Dang. That's beautiful, man. And wait, what are weenies? What were you? I was confused for a second. Weenies like a thing you draw with, or just like random stuff you put in the game?
So a weenie was the thing that Walt Disney used to psychologically draw people into his parks. So if you think of Magical Kingdom, the big castle in the background, that's a psychological trigger to lure the player forward, to lure them to where they want to go. So essentially utilizing them in games. So say, for example, you know, we're in a dark forest, dark, moody forest, you know, the player breaks out of the trees, and then in the mist, in the valley in the background, they see a castle on a hill. You know, okay, instantly the player knows, I need to go to that castle. I don't know what I need to do there, but it's something at that castle.
It
draws
nice.
them in. Yeah, it just attracts the eye. And it's a way to draw people through the level without having a big pointer saying, go that way.
It's like...
Yeah, and it's important to be aware of that as well, like not to create them unintentionally and like draw people towards somewhere that has nothing.
Yeah.
It also goes into things like show, not tell. So it's like, don't tell them to go there. Just show a castle and be like, I mean, maybe you should go, maybe not. But there it is.
Yeah.
So.
And then when he gets there, you need to tell that the princess is not there.
And you have to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So when you were studying, what were you saying?
Oh, no, go ahead. I'll ask mine after yours.
Okay. So when you were studying all the programming, art, all that stuff, game design, what time frame was this? Like, it seems like you spent a lot of time. So did you have a lot of free time in your hands? Was this during college? Was this high school? Like, what was when was this?
I got very familiar with 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I bet, right? Because it's like
I got very familiar with that. Actually, here's the thing: people think they don't have a lot of time, but they actually do. You have 24 hours in a day. You choose how to spend it. At the end of the day, you know, if you want to work, if you really want this, you're going to put 18 hours in a day. And here's the thing, right? And here's the secret sauce that no one tells you, right? If you work 18 hours a day, right? If you work 18 hours a day, you are doing the equivalent of around 3 days of work to the average person. So what, for every day, I've 3 days on people. And that always drove me. That was like gas for me. That got me up in the morning. When I knew, like, I done that for a year, I was like, that's a year of, that might only seem like a year, but I have the knowledge of someone who's been doing this for like 5 years. This is great. I was like, let's go. Like, you know, this is the fast track. Why is no one else doing this? I was like, this is too easy, you know. So that's how I kind of did it. But the time frame, I mean, it's literally been an evolution since I started at a young age to now. I mean, I didn't really start seriously getting like it was around 17, I suppose, was when it really started to, I suppose, snowball. Up to then, no one cared and everyone thought I was crazy. But
so you're doing like 8. So let's go in. Oh, actually, Jack, when you go now, I'll ask my question.
Right. So you were talking about just like your process of design and things that you're looking at. I was wondering if there were any like games that like really inspired you when you were making your games.
So one of the biggest game, and you know, I suppose it's a very it touched me on a different level, was Soma. Soma, and here's why. That was a story. So that I played that game while I was kind of on this journey, and it was in a time in my journey when it wasn't going well for me. It was going terribly, and I was bulling ahead. And it was like, as the game progressed, as I was playing the game, I started to get all this good news. I started to get all this, like, you know, kind of, you know, the Microsoft thing coming through and all this. And I was like, as the character in the game was discovering themselves, I felt I was discovering the next level. And that kind of moment just stuck with me. Like, I remember the moment, and I'll never forget it. I was sitting in Soma, and you know the scene where essentially the player finds that they are essentially, you know, the robot thing. Like, you know, they find out that for the first time, they're like, oh my God. I remember I played that scene, and afterwards I checked my phone, because I was actually playing the scene to do research for my game I was making. I was seeing the way they implement something, and then I checked my phone, and it was from ID at Xbox. And then I was just like,
What?
And then I was like, and that moment stuck with me, and it stuck with me. It's stuck with me ever since. And that will be my most favorite game because of that. It's just a moment that I don't think I'm ever going to get again. But it was something that I hold on to, and it was a very empowering moment. So that would be my favorite game. But I take in all genres of games, like even your simple mobile games that maybe have like Flappy Bird. There's a lot to be learned from games like that. There's so much knowledge there, so much innovation. People might think it's so simple, but no, there's so many psychological triggers that were used there to make that a viral success. There's elements to be taken from everything, and that's once you get yourself into that mindset that I can learn from anything, that there's something to be taken, and if I take one thing from everything I see, I'm going to become a very knowledgeable person pretty quickly, and that's kind of the ethos I take with it.
Yeah, what I feel people tend to do is they focus a lot on the no's they get in life. And they forget that you only need one yes. And well, that was your yes, right?
Yeah.
And that from the no's, you learn like what you didn't do right, or the things that you're struggling with, or the things that you didn't know.
Yeah.
So
there's a Thomas Edison quote here.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah. So what is your process? Sorry. So what is your process when you're playing a game to like study it? Like, what are things that you look for, or like how do you approach that?
So this is it's very strange when the more and more you make games, you get less time to play them.
Yep.
Like that is the truth.
I'll be honest. I haven't actually. The last full game I played through was Soma, that was years ago. Every game since then has been just analytical analysis of what they do and why they're doing it. I don't like to play them. I prefer to watch them. I prefer to watch other people playing, because then I can see, okay, I've spotted, say, for example, we'll use the weenie as an example because we already used that. Say, for example, I spot a weenie in a scene and I'm like, okay, there's a weenie. Did it work? Did it capture this person? Is that person going, like, that's in, like, if you think, right, there is billions of hours of gameplay on YouTube of people playing your games. That's free focus testing. Well, not your games, but other people's games. That's free testing of these ethoses. You can back test it. You can back test the theory. Like, for example, say, for example, in your game, you want to do a gravity switch, right? Look up a game that has a gravity switch and see what people thought about it. So I analyze people more than anything now to see what people like and what people don't like, and what I think the psychological triggers are going to be for people. And sometimes it's things that you don't even realize, like, like certain things you put into your game that were nothing and then they turned into something, that happens too. But it's all, it's all about analyzing it. But I suppose another thing to note is it's always very important not to get caught with by paralysis by analysis. So don't overanalyze every single thing, being like, oh, he sneezed there, so that means that that platform can't get put there. You've got to take a large sample set and run with that. But I like to take a data-driven approach to it. The data's out there, and it makes my job easier.
Yeah, actually, this reminded me of something that happened when I was doing theater. So people really tend to overanalyze things, like, and notice things not even the maker did. Like, we did a small sketch once, and it had no meaning at all. It was like Seinfeld, like a show about nothing. And then after we presented, like, everyone started giving up theories and stuff, and like, oh yeah, that meant X, and oh, that's like, I don't know, adolescence and whatever.
That takes me back
it literally meant nothing.
That takes me back to high school English class. Like, oh, the blue curtains meant that the author was sad.
Yeah. I'm like, did it though? I don't think so.
Yeah, is
like,
death of the author a thing or
yeah.
not?
I think like underlying themes are the things that the author really cares about. Like I'm currently writing a book too, so like things I write about, I'm like, yeah, it's for this overall like theme of like redemption, but everything else is just there because it looks cool in my head or it just seems right for that moment, that scene. But like when people are like, oh no, it's right because of this or this and that, I'm like, maybe he thought about it or maybe he didn't, but it kind of happened coincidentally. But I think stuff like that you can also use to make better games, like learn the psychology of these things and like, okay, maybe I will place this here. Maybe not for that bigger meaning, but because it might trigger something that makes you think deeper, makes you more interested in my game. So I don't know. I guess you can use that strategy to make people more interested in games.
Yeah, 100%.
So back to the whole learning process of like programming, art, and all that stuff. What was it like those 18 hours? Was it like I'm gonna just make a game and then learn how to do that while making the game, or like I'm gonna make the Brooklyn Bridge, for instance, and learn how I can do that in like Blender? What was the process like?
It changed over time. In the beginning, I always start off simple, keep it stupid simple, as I always say. And when you're first starting, don't try and build Rome if you've never picked up a kind of a mortar before. It's all about just starting simple and just going on. And as time progressed, I got more challenging things. Like I'd start off, the first thing I ever made in Blender was a cube. I think everyone does, And then I made a Lego man.
Blender makes it for you now.
Yeah. After that was a Lego man, and then I got it up from there. Maybe then I made whatever, subdivided it a few times and made a sphere or whatever. I just kind of started off small and grew, and always had an additive process. Generally, the way I like to do it is I'd like, say, for example, I'd learn how to model the character first, and I'd build on that until I've modeled the character. And then I'd start off with the, rigging process, skinning process, and I'd start off with, one little part of it and then slowly build up. And then before I know it, I have a whole skeleton. So, I kind of done it that way. It's always an additive thing, but I don't generally, when I learn, I don't generally start something and just cast it away. I generally like to additively add to something, because I think that's just the way I like to do it, and it's always worked for me. So just kind of mini projects, essentially. Don't have to be meaningful, just just have to be something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and back in Brazil we have this expression, taking a step larger than your leg, which kind of describes that, like trying to do something you're not actually ready to do, like making WoW.
Yeah, we have a saying, don't make WoW. Don't start off trying to make a giant MMO. Make something small, simple, because then you can learn from it. So
yeah, there's a lot to learn from copying another game. Like if you're not selling it, it's not copyright infringement. So just try it.
Yeah, I think one of the big pitfalls that a lot of newer developers fall into is like, I want to make a full game, right? But that's a lot of work, and I don't think people realize how much work that is, and until you are doing it. So I guess for advice to newbies, what would you suggest to them to where to start when they're wanting to create something?
I suppose the way I always looked at it was, look at human genesis. We just weren't like, humans. We started off as little like fish things, and then slowly walk up, crawl before you climb. First thing first, if you're in Unity and you're making a game, get the cube moving first. Worry about that. Make a simple game. Like, you don't have to make the most complex thing in the world for it to be a successful game. Look at games like, Flappy Bird, perfect example. All that was just like, rigid body dot add force. Essentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
Just
never ending screen of you trying to dodge the pipes.
Yeah.
That's it. Boom. Successful.
Yeah. So just start small.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to making sacrifices, how many sacrifices did you make? Like when you were learning 18 hours a day, I'm assuming you didn't like hang out as much or travel as much or do a lot of like fun things. You were more like, I gotta get this so I can
like
learn.
anything else.
Yeah.
Some people thought like I died.
No.
People,
oh no.
I disappeared. I disappeared. I literally off the face of the earth. Like one day I was in. So this was essentially what happened. One day I was in school. No one heard from me ever again. That was it. I made a decision, and the decision was, if I wanted to do this, I had to sacrifice everything, and I had to go, and that was it. No one was coming with me. this was a journey, and you know, as I say, you can't bring, you know, dead weight always sinks the ship. You can't be multi-focused. You can't be, if you really want to learn something, if that is what you want and that is what you're going to do, well then I'm telling you now, you need to be willing to sacrifice them days off and sacrifice going out with your friends. Like obviously now it's a little more, it's not really even more lax now, but it's not a necessity now that I do that. That's just more my, you know, the way I live. And after you do it for a while, you know, it's the way you live. But essentially, yeah, that's what I did. I said, okay, cook cold turkey. You've just got to do it. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it hard. And, you know, I knew what I had to do. And I knew that I'd heard about the games industry. I'd heard, you know, it's nearly impossible. No one gets a job in the games industry, especially in Ireland. We've got barely any companies doing it. We're like, there's only about 5 real, like, decent companies in the country, you know, that do make games. The rest of them are kind of, you know, they're starting to come up there. It's got a lot better, but when I started, there was 1 or 2. You know, it was impossible. No one got a job in games industry. Everyone, you know, it was uncoveted. And then I was just like, okay, well, what is everyone not doing? There's something people aren't doing. There's an element here that everyone's missing. And then I realized they aren't putting in the work. Anyone can be a game developer. You just got to put in that grind. You got to love it. You got to love that grind. You really do. And that's the only way to do it. I don't sugarcoat it, and I really don't. Like, you can't be a passive game dev and do it full time and own a studio. It is a lifestyle, and it's an acquired taste. But I can tell you now that if you do stick it out and you do push through, it pays its dividends. You know, it's like finding the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You know, it is there. You just got to find it. And, you know, it's all about that hard work. It's all about that dedication. It's not about massive leaps. It's about them small term gains. It's about them small achievements. And they build, they compound, you know. The younger you start, the more time you have. Like, I'm only 22 and I've done a lot. You know, so it's possible for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Really
That's the thing. It is possible. Now, it's going to take lots of like hours and hours and hours and hours of work if you want to get to a place of really good place. So it's like you have to ask yourself, is that what you want? Like you have to always ask yourself, what is, like you said earlier, my why? And don't lie to yourself. Don't sugarcoat it. If your why is like, I kind of want to make games and also have life with friends, and that's okay, but don't expect something else. That way you can have a more happy life. Because if you expect greatness and you're not putting in great work, you're not going to get it. So like he said, sometimes you just got to make sacrifices to get what you want.
Gotta commit.
You got to commit.
100%.
Yes, 100%.
Nothing less.
Like Charles Bukowski said, go if you're going to try, go all the way. At least then don't even start then if you're not going to do that.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah,
Wise Master Yoda.
Woo. What were you saying, Josh?
I was just going to say, and we say it in our company too, like not even on the game side of things, you say, like, you know, if you really want to achieve what the 0.001% achieve, then you got to do what the 99.999% don't. You know, that's really it. Like, this is the thing, right, that blows my mind. It blows my mind every single time and every day. It's just like, how are people not caught on to this yet? The answer is so simple. Everyone's mother tells them it when they're younger. You just got to work hard. You just got to put in the work. And it's that simple. There is no secret. There is no, like, you know, I don't have a little black book under my desk that I'm reading from that's giving me the cheat codes. You know, I have no Konami code, I promise.
Or maybe you do.
He's lying.
That's exactly what someone who has a Konami code would say. No, but like,
you have the pick of destiny, I know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's as simple as that. Put in the hard work and you'll get the results eventually. You know, in between, you know, it's, if you're in it for the long haul, you'll stay in and you'll work hard. If not, well then, you know, fair play to you. You gave it a go. But it wasn't for you. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
for sure.
like there are so many disciplines in game development as well. Like just because you're not a good programmer doesn't mean you cannot work with games. You could even work with like HR for your game companies. Still kind of working with games. Like do it.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
your thing.
And like with design, I know a lot of people when they start off like I'm gonna be a designer, they go to like straight to level design. I'm like, there's so much more out there than just level design. Like the things that you were talking about are really important for level design. But the things that I love about about design are like systems design and like narrative design. Like there's so many facets that you can go into in game design. You don't have to be stuck in just one. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you've
it's
got
very
to
important.
try it all. You've got to try it all. If you don't try it all, like if you haven't tried something, how do you know you're not good at it, or how do you know? And here's the thing, right? I don't believe in I don't believe in natural talent. I believe like people always say, people always say, "Oh, I'm not good at maths," and it's like because you've never done maths before. Like that's like it's
Yes.
pretty much it. Like I hate and it drives me mental when I see people online saying, "Oh, I'm not good at programming. This is so hard." It's like you've only started. Calm down there,
Yeah.
Yeah, like 2 weeks in, if you're complaining it's too hard, like dude.
Yeah. It's like it just blows my mind. Like there is no quick scheme to anything in life. I don't know, people never seem to realize that, but I can tell you now, just everything takes time, and if you put in the time, you get the results, and it really is the truth. And I say that so much, but it's like people just, I don't know, they just don't hear it.
It's crazy. It's like people won't follow the advice for some reason. I don't know why. Like I listened to something a long time ago that completely changed my mind about things. But it was this like old guy being like, you just have to do the opposite of what others are doing. But he was like, you're not even gonna follow that. And then I was like, that's so true. Like everyone around me is like just like, we're just gonna go by, let life happen. And I was like, no, I want to make something happen. This is like my 16-year-old self being like, I'm not happy with this. I got to make a difference. So it's like, do the opposite of what other people are doing. If people aren't working and you want to be ahead, go work 18 hours a day. So just do things opposite of what other people are doing. Go look up to the people who are there. Because another thing too, I think people hear advice from everyone. Like if they're taking game advice or business advice from like their mom or dad, and it's like, unless they're business owners, like honestly, they're just giving you their opinion, but they don't actually have technical advice for that. So don't get advice from them. Go to someone who started the business, get advice. Go talk to a programmer. Go talk to people you want to, like mentors, so that you can then learn from people who have a better understanding of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world.
I guess, yeah.
I'm inspired today, sorry.
Well, yeah, Josh, you inspired all of us. You're about to
It's
inspire
your
all the
fault.
GameDev community. Yeah.
But no,
But no,
it's
it's
true.
beautiful.
Yeah, and it's very true, and it's even true from what I used to do. Now this might sound a little bit weird, but I used to just and I still do it sometimes. I just message people, like say for example, someone working in Insomniac Games. I'll just look up on LinkedIn. Okay, I can see the job role here. I'm just going to message every single one of them and see who will talk to me, have a chat with them. And that's presented many opportunities for me, many opportunities. Like I've done many like contract times in the AAA space as well. It's something that you can achieve as well. People always say it's so hard to get into these companies. It's not really. It's not. It really isn't. Like, they say it's so hard, but I think what people expect is that, Todd Howard's going to knock on their door and say, "Hey, listen, it's your time." It's
Never going to happen. No.
Yeah, it's that people see job posts and like they think they can only apply if they like everything correctly in their resume, if they have every single requirement. If
you'll never
kind
get
of
a
good
job
enough, do it.
Yeah,
if
I was
you're
like,
good enough, do it.
One of my mentors that works at PlayStation, he said, if you meet at least like 50%, even just 25%, just apply. Because what are they going to tell you? They're just going to tell you no, and then you're going to go, okay, thanks, and go learn the stuff you didn't know.
Yeah, they're not going to remember your name. Like, They don't care that much.
Yeah. So don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Just
They're not gonna
keep
go,
going.
oh, that guy applied 5 years ago to another position and didn't have the requirements. Guess we don't even read his resume now.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Definitely.
Oh man, guys, I'm about to like go work for 18 hours today, just for you, man.
Yeah,
So-
you got it.
I know, but it's
So what was the longest time that you the longest time period where you were like, okay, I'm doing this thing, I'm asking people for things and I'm not getting responses? Like, how did you keep yourself going with that? Because I know like for me, like applying for jobs, it was like at first a little like, oh, this sucks. You kind of have to pull yourself back from that. So how was it for you?
It's been, I think, 7 years, and I still haven't got a response from some people. And that's the truth.
they missed out.
Ever since I started, like, you know, there's certain people I've been trying to get in touch with, certain people that I just even want to talk to, and yeah, I never give up. I don't care. I don't care if I'm chasing it forever. You know, I really don't care. I'd rather have said I gave it all I had rather than said I didn't try at all. You know, and that's the thing. It's not about the end result. It's about the journey. You just gotta love it. I love sending that person an email. You know, some of them I have a counter of how many times I've contacted them. It's like contact number 365. Will I get a response? I've tried everything. I've tried everything.
Goodness.
The guys at like Microsoft and PlayStation and all them guys, they when they hear I'm emailing, they're like, oh no, here we go, we're getting a barrage. Yeah. I remember it was a very, like, here's the thing, right? When you first start with these companies, you start at the bottom ladder. People think, oh, you get in, you know, all right, you made it. It's like, you made it, kid. You're in. Your game's going on Xbox. You're a millionaire. Woo! No. You start off at the bottom rung of the ladder and you have to work your way up. You're at the bottom again. So you think you've just after getting over to the top, and then you realize, oh, I'm just a fly on the wall, you know? So you have to work your way up in these companies. You have to get you have to build the connections. And you never know where these connections are going to come from. I can tell you a very, very funny story. I was doing a Christmas. We done a giveaway. Every Christmas we do it, where we give away free copies of our games to anyone who can't afford them. And we don't ask any questions. We just give away free keys. Just because, you know, Christmas is a tough time for people. Not everyone has the finances, you know, and not giving a present to someone, it's better to have a key to give someone than nothing. So I say, okay, we'll do that. And we've done that locally. And lo and behold, who sees it? The executive of Microsoft for Ireland. Get a message, hey, come on in. We want to have another chat with you. And it's like, you never know who's what. You know, that's the thing. You never know when it's going to happen, and it's all about not chasing those opportunities, but putting yourself out there. Like every second week, I'm sending Sony emails saying, "Hey guys, is there any opportunities available that we could avail of at the moment? We're ready to go. You know, if you need any marketing material, we can get it to you by the end of the day. You know, we're ready for it." And they're just like, it's gotten to the stage now where literally they give us all the opportunities, because they're like, okay, well, Josh is going to be emailing if we don't just, let him know.
This, just shut up, you know.
Here you go.
I mean, he's got the stuff, so might as well, give him everything he wants.
So it's good, and we have a very good relationship with all the platforms, you know. And I think I have a strong ethos about building strong relationships with people. It's all about people, you know. Build those relationships with your, like, if you have an account manager at Sony, get to know them. You know, you should be on a first name basis. Ask them how their day is. I find it crazy how many people don't ask someone, how's your day going? I hope you had a nice weekend, you know? And then they're like, oh, yeah, I did. All right, that's good. And then you're into it. It sets a good precedent moving forward, you know. And if you bring positivity with you, other people get positive, and then no one's down in the dumps. Like here's the thing. And here's the other approach to negative feedback, because I love negative feedback. Negative feedback is the best thing ever. I love it because I love brightening people's days up. And you might say, well, how are you going to do that when you're getting negative comments? I can't tell you how many times someone has bashed our games on YouTube saying this game's the worst game ever made, PlayStation 1 graphics, whatever. You know, and then I comment and I say, hey, listen, thank you so much for your comment and feedback. It's really appreciated. You know, I hope you just have a nice day. And, you know, I really hope you're having a good week. If you'd like a free copy of the game, just drop me a message. And every time I do that, I get a message back saying, I've never had a developer reply, I'm so sorry, I was a dick. Every single time.
The classic don't feed the troll, right?
Yeah, right? And he was like, instead of giving you what you want, I'm going to give you the opposite. And he completely reframed his mind. He was like, wait a minute. I got a free game? This guy was nice to me? I need to rethink my life.
And here's the thing as well. We sit and reply to every comment. Like, for example, when our trailers go up on the PlayStation YouTube channel, we're getting around, like, you know, could get, like, in total across all platforms, 18,000 comments. I sit and I respond to each one individually. Each single one. Every single one I'll sit and respond to. I spend about hours doing it. And each one I address as if it's the first time I'm meeting that person, because it is. And to them, I know that that is that moment. That is the moment when they get to talk to a developer. I know if I was younger and a developer responded to me, I'd go crazy. I'd be telling everyone about it for months. So that I know that's a special moment, and you can never forget that. And that's why I don't like to, you know, I find it very important to give that back to people. And another thing that I always do is I make sure, that's my line, stay awesome. And it's such an empowering line. It's like, just stay awesome. And then they're like, yeah, I will stay awesome. I'm like, that's good, like, you know. And what happens then is you get this community around you that's just full of positivity. Like, I can't tell you, on our Twitter now, like, our Twitter's like just a hub of positivity. We, like, you know, we built this community of people who are just positive, and everyone wants to help each other. Like, you know, perfect example, like in our Discord, with people who are, like, you know, commenting about their games and putting up their games while they're on their learning journey. And there's real players in there who are wanting to try out other people's games, and they're like, yeah, you know, I'll give it a go. And everyone's positive, you know, and that's the way it is. You know, you just got to be positive. And it's all about making people feel special, because at the end of the day, that person has taken time out of their day, regardless of if they paid for your game or not. If it's a free game, whatever, they've taken time out of their day to play something that you made. And that is a very special thing. You know, that is them giving something to you, and you owe them something for that. I know some people think, oh, maybe no, you know, all this, but it's true. You know, the players are so important, and the players need to be at the focus of everything you do. And if you're doing it for that reason, you're never, ever going to go wrong. You really won't. And a lot of people don't realize that, you know?
Yeah, it's the importance of creating a good community. You get actual usable feedback as well, which is an issue you have if you don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting over here like, amen. Like, I love everything you're saying. It's so true. The player is the most important person in game development. The whole reason you're making a game is for them.
Yes, the customer is always right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Number one thing why you make a game is, what is the player experience, and you build the game upon that.
Yeah.
You don't build it because of money or other things. Of course, it comes with money, but like if you build,
I like to eat, so money is nice.
Oh yeah, but if you make a good game, the money will come. That's what happened with Witcher 3. We don't know what happened with Cyberpunk, but you know, they're working on it. But it will come if you put in the time and effort, you care about the community, and just like you said, just want to. Like I don't know why some people just don't want to interact with some people. It's like, oh, I have to say hello or ask the person. I'm like, why? I mean,
it has something to do with, like, so people who work with IT in general tend to be more introverts. So there's that. Like, people don't like talking to people in general. It's not.
No, I've met extroverts who like just didn't like the idea of meeting new people. you're just like, why should I say hello to this person? I'm like, just you never know what could happen. There's the opportunity there.
I know.
Cool.
Stay awesome.
Yeah, stay
I
awesome.
love that. I'm gonna adopt that.
Yeah,
everything is awesome.
Yeah, everything is awesome.
Yes,
and remember, that's the thing, like, and just and here's the thing, and as well, here's another thing. Anyone that does watch this, thank you. That's the thing, like, thank you. I never hear that, and like, I never hear people that come on podcasts or anything just thank people. Like, whoever's watching now, thank you for taking the time to watch. To spend the time watching it. If you've gotten this far, you've taken an hour out of your day to listen to me yabber on. Like, thank you. And as I say, drop me a message anytime. If there is any developers that are, wanting just even advice, drop me a message. I'm not that hard to reach. I respond to everyone. Never think your question's too stupid, because I know that's a thing. And even if you just need like a pickup saying, oh, I made this and I don't really know if it's good or not. What do you think? I'll tell you. And I won't tell you, oh, that's terrible. I'll tell you maybe you can improve on this, but it's still an awesome effort, And that's the thing. Just spread positivity. The more positivity in the community, the better everything's going to be. And we can get games back to where they were. The games industry has tilted very much so in the last 10 years to a more toxic and just not nice place. But the era of what made games great and the era of what made games what they are today was positivity and the community and want for people just to sit down and have fun together. That's the thing, Think of games like Doom, all these games, think of LAN parties, all these different things. That was what formed game design to what it is today. So it's extremely important. And my thing just disconnected.
Right. I was like, oh no, where'd you go?
Great again.
So we do this thing. Oh, I guess we could wait till the cam comes back. But I'll ask you so you can think about it though. So we do this thing where we ask I guess a challenge at the end. So if you can come up with a challenge for all the listeners out there to do as they, as the podcast ends and they can do afterwards. It could be anything. Programming.
Ideally related to game development, at least, not 100 push-ups or something.
Yeah.
500 push-ups. And no,
I can't do 500. I'll do 1,000.
I would say, it looks like the battery on my DSLR died.
That's fine. It's all good.
So essentially, I would say a small challenge. I would say every day within the next week. Take your time, spend 30 minutes on something that you've been struggling with in game development. Just 30 minutes and see how you go. And I can guarantee you by the end of the week, if you haven't overcome it, you'll be a lot more knowledgeable. And I think that that's very important. And do that and don't just do it for a week. Do it. Try and carry that forward. But if you hate it terribly, well, then at least you tried it for a week.
You did better than most people, yeah.
Awesome
challenge. So thank you for coming on. This was amazing. I'm glad your brother reached out to us and got you on, and I'm just glad you were able to inspire everyone, myself, the crew. So this is amazing.
It really is my pleasure. You guys do great things, and you guys are not only providing so much knowledge to the community, but also that you're inspiring people. You're getting people started. You're giving people that opportunity that I didn't have when I started. Like, it was just back when I was started, there was nothing. It was, some, forums, that you had to search through vaguely described answers. Now there's full tutorials available. It's amazing, It's
forums.
But it's I just would want to inspire people, and I have my own questions, and I was like, if people are lost, I'm lost. Maybe if I can find the answers, it can also help them too. So that's what this whole thing's been about, and I'm thankful for everyone who listens, and like you said, made it to this point, and you got this. Stay awesome, like you said, and it's just.
I think our motto could be, "You are not alone."
Oh yeah, you're never alone. Always, you can reach out to any of us, and we'll help you out.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, so we'll hand the mic to you to if you want to do any last minute shout outs, any last minute quotes, inspiration, and thanks for coming on, Josh.
Yeah, so as I say, if anyone does want to reach out, they can just find us at Stratton Studios. That's essentially our handle on everything. If they do want to join the Discord, just hop into on Twitter, and it's in our bio, I believe. And again, if anyone does have any questions, and that's not just like a vague offer I throw out. I mean that. I really do. Like, and I would say that you in the game development space, when someone gives you an opportunity like that, you've got to take it. If someone says, "Hey, drop me a message," drop them a message. It's they've clearly said that you can, so do it. And at the end of the day, I would just say, don't give up. If you're especially for the people who are listening, who are at their last wit's end with game development, they're like, "Oh, I can't do this. This is for me." Just take a breath. Take a breath and then come back at it, and you will succeed. I can guarantee you. If you just listen to one thing that I say, it's just keep at it and success will come. And, when it does come, everyone will be there to say you did it, and that's really it. So, yeah, stay awesome.
Well, that's it. Thanks for listening. You can find all courses at GameDev.tv or in a show notes at a discounted price. Get started with your game development journey today.